What's up guys, my name is Ace, and yesterday we got a patch for Call of Duty World War II. A lot of you guys might be wondering what's in that, so today, just like always, every time we get a patch, I'm going to be covering at least the highlights of the patch. If you guys want to have a look at the full patch notes, feel free to do that. I will leave that link down below, but I like to cover the things that most people will actually notice in-game. Now, normally I cover things like game balancing changes, where they change up guns or some sort of game mechanic or something like that. There wasn't much of that in this particular update. There was a little bit, but most of it is bug fixes, as well as things that probably should have been there at launch, but they have finally gotten around to changing, as well as a bunch of quality of life improvements that I feel should have been there at launch, but hey, at least we're getting them now, and that's great. And also keep in mind, a bunch of this patch was simply adding a bunch of content in the back end for the winter event that's actually starting today. Now, I'm not going to be covering the details of that winter event in this video. I might make another one today and let you guys know all the details on how to get the new guns and everything like that, but that's for a different video. So let's get into the highlights of this update. First up, in the war game mode, you can no longer farm XP on defense by running way back onto a completely different section of the map and then just like building and destroying walls. This is amazing to see. I've run into countless teammates that go and do this, and it just ruins my experience where we're trying to defend something and we're like 1 or 2 men down, because sometimes it's 2 or 3 teammates that are going and doing that. Really frustrating. I'm so glad they fixed that, so you can no longer farm XP in war game modes by just going back and not really actually playing the game. Next was a bunch of hardcore changes. First up, there is a 3 team kill kick limit. So what this means is if you kill 3 teammates in a game in hardcore, you will be kicked from the game. So there's a little bit of freedom there. Accidents happen. That's fair enough. Like if you kill 1 or 2 teammates, sometimes they just run in front of your bullets, or their name tag doesn't appear and you think it's an enemy and you just react quickly. It happens. But after killing 3 teammates, you will be kicked from the game, like we've seen in the past with Hardcore and Call of Duty. I don't know why they didn't have this implemented at launch, but hey, it's there now at least. Unfortunately, this also applies to score streaks. So if you call in like a carpet bomber or something, it's almost definitely going to kill some teammates, and it's almost definitely going to get you kicked from the game. I feel like maybe they should make it so that those don't count towards being kicked from the game, because you don't really have any control over that. At least make it so the non-controllable score streaks don't kick you. I think that would make sense, but I would say at least the system they have now is much better than they did before this update. Also for hardcore, teammates are unable to kill you and take your care package. Now, I'm not too sure exactly how this works. I'm not really much of a hardcore player. I think maybe they programmed it so if they've killed you, then they just simply can't capture the care package. Like, there's no option for them to do that. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was in the patch notes, and that's a good thing to hear as well, because that would be really annoying as a hardcore player. You call in a care package and you're going to go pick it up, but then your teammate just kills you and takes it for himself. One other thing in relation to team killing in hardcore is the deaths from a team kill no longer count against your overall kill-death ratio. And this is another thing where, really, that shouldn't have been there at launch. Those deaths shouldn't apply to your overall kill-death ratio because they're out of your control, and some troll could just completely ruin your kill-death ratio. So a bunch of great updates to hardcore. I think a lot of hardcore players are going to be quite happy with most of those changes. Next up, getting into the headquarters. First off, an option that I've been asking for and I'm really happy to see now. There is now a mute all option in the headquarters. All you have to do is go over to the headquarters menu in the social tab and then just hit triangle, or it would be Y on Xbox, and it will mute everybody in the headquarters. That is awesome to see. Sometimes you get that really obnoxious person in the lobby. They're playing music or they're just making really terrible sounds in their mic, and you can't find them on the list, or it just takes forever to get to them to mute them, and that was an extremely frustrating situation. Now you can just go mute all, and it will mute everybody there, and that's great. Also, when you're opening supply drops, a great quality of life update. When you get a variant of a gun, it now tells you what the base gun is. I can't tell you the number of times where I've gotten a variant and it's like, which gun is that? Because sometimes it's just, it looks so different from the base gun that you can't even tell what gun it is, and then you have a hard time finding it after. Now it will actually tell you what the base gun is, so that's great. And also with the grips, it will actually show what the grip looks like, rather than just a generic grip picture and then the name of the grip. It will actually show you the image of the grip, and that's just a great update as well. It still sucks to get the grips, but at least now you get to see what they look like without having to go into a menu and see it for yourself. Now moving on to the more gameplay related things, most of what happened in this category is bug fixes. There were a couple variants where there was actually an alignment issue with the sights, so the bullets weren't actually going where they were supposed to, they were just slightly off center. Those have now been fixed. Those issues were primarily with an SVT variant as well as an M1911 variant. Also, there was a variant of the MG42. You guys may have seen a video on like Tabor Hill's channel, for instance. He covered this, where one of the variant, I think it's called the Devil's Piano, it bounced around like crazy and it had this weird like visual recoil. It was just a visual bug. It didn't actually have more recoil, but it made the variant basically unusable with extended mags. That has apparently been fixed with this patch. Also, suppressors got a little bit of a buff in the sense that they don't have as much muzzle flash anymore as they used to. In the past with Call of Duty, suppressors have always pretty much eliminated muzzle flash. And in World War II, it didn't seem like they did that at all. There was still a good amount of muzzle flash with the suppressor attachment. That has been fixed in this update. Suppressors now will practically eliminate your muzzle flash, and that'll make it a little bit better to handle, a little bit easier to handle those suppressors. Also, they have fixed the inspect weapon bug that I shared with you guys a week or two ago, where you could basically just eliminate your sprint out time by inspecting your weapon. That has now been fixed. If you're inspecting your weapon and you go to fire your gun, you now have to complete the sprint out time before your gun will fire. A little bit unfortunate to see. I still want Sledgehammer to reduce those sprint out times across the board, at least for SMGs, but we'll just have to keep pushing for that one. Next up, the STG got a bit of a fix to its hip fire. If you guys remember from one of the previous updates, they said that they had nerfed the hip fire for the STG, and your standing hip fire wasn't changed at all. I found in my video nothing changed, but the crouching hip fire did change significantly, and it got a lot wider when you crouched, which is usually the opposite of what you'd expect to see. I think what happened with that update is they changed the wrong value. They meant to change the standing hip fire, and they actually changed the crouched hip fire. This has now been fixed with this update, so your hip fire has been nerfed when you're standing, and now when you crouch, it does tighten up a little bit, as it should. Here is the before and after, and just know it is currently matching the M1 Garand with the standing hip fire spread. And also, it's kind of nice they added more of a trail to your throwing knife. In the past, I didn't really use the throwing knife too much, but the few times that I did use it, I noticed I didn't really know where the throwing knife went after I threw it. It didn't have like a trail behind it, so you could see the arc of it and then learn from that for future throws. You basically just threw it and hoped that you hit your target. Now there's a bit more of a trail with that throwing knife, so you can see the general arc and where it's going, and that is a great addition as well. Moving on to ranked play. With ranked play, there were tons of changes. Most of these were bug changes and UI changes and things like that. We're not going to get into all the details with that. But one of the big changes is your public match stats are no longer affected by your ranked play performance. So if you do terrible in ranked play, it's not going to bring down your kill-death ratio. I know a lot of people were worried about that. Personally, I didn't really care too much, but I did care about the fact that it changed how other people play their mode, and I want people to be playing for the win all the time, so I'm really happy to see that. Next up, they added leaderboards, and if you actually go into the theater area in the headquarters, you can see your headquarters leaderboard for that, so that's kind of cool. Also, apparently they fixed the issue where some wins were actually being counted as a loss. However, I have heard a couple reports after the update where people were still losing MMR after winning a game. So I don't know if they've entirely fixed everything when it comes to that, but hopefully they've at least improved significantly in this area, and you don't get a loss showing up on your record when you did in fact get the win. And finally, the last highlight I wanted to cover today is also related to ranked play. They have updated the rule set for ranked play to properly match the current CWL rule set. So this means no Molotovs, and there's some couple other changes, I think, with like your spawn nade timers and things like that. I'm not too familiar with all the rules, but just know it now matches the CWL rule set. So there we have it. That's going to wrap it up for today's patch highlight update video. I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about these changes so far? Personally, I think most of them are great. It's great to see some quality of life improvements. Even though there wasn't anything that really significantly affects gameplay, a lot of this stuff is going to affect my enjoyment of the game, and it just makes it a more polished version of the game, so I'm happy to see a lot of these updates. Also, let me know in the comment section below if you guys are interested in seeing a video from me later today about the winter event that is happening starting today. I've been getting quite a few questions about that, so I'm thinking I'm just going to cover a general video on how it's all going to work and how to get those new guns and everything like that. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.